Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. And boy, today was quite the day for my Ninja Turtle collection because I didn't just get one brand new NECA 2-pack in the mail. No, I got two. I got this awesome and amazing Dirtbag and Groundchuck 2-pack. And I also got this Wingnut and Screwless 2-pack, which I'm not going to really discuss it here because this will have its own episode next. But I just want to mention that Wingnut is gigantic. So, back to Dirtbag and Groundchuck. You know, I was pretty excited that these guys were coming out. This 2-pack was announced back in July on the NECA Comic-Con 2021 panel. In all honesty, I thought these guys were going to be like, 2022 releases. So I was pretty surprised 2 weeks ago whenever it was announced on the Whoosh that these guys were going to be put up for like order in like a week or like a couple of days or something like that. Not only that, but after they were up for order, they were going to be shipping soon. How soon? Well, it took them about a week to ship it to me, and then a few days after that. And that's pretty soon for me. Especially since we're still waiting for so many toys that we pre-ordered from NECA. I mean, geez, I have NECA pre-orders all the way back in April that are still unfulfilled, right? So, I was surprised nonetheless. So these guys were $10 more than the usual 2-pack, $64.99. Bummer. I ordered mine within the first 2 minutes of being posted, but, they lasted a pretty decent amount of time. I think that they were still up for sale like the next day, which is unheard of. Maybe they finally figured out their distribution numbers. Who knows? If you missed them on the NECA store, don't worry. People are already finding them in Target. So let's begin with the review. These guys come in the standard NECA 2-pack packaging. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it kind of looks like the turtle van, the party wagon, because you got the yellow on the bottom and you got the green on top. I feel like a little spoiled since I've been talking mostly about the deluxe figures where you have that very cool painted covers and it looks like the VHS tapes. But, these will be good for you if you're like a mint on card collector because, they all match, all the 2-packs match so far. But I've never cared about NRFB. That's never been my bag. But on the front here, you have this giant window so you can see the two guys inside and you can see a decent amount of their accessories. And some of these accessories are giant. On the front here, you have some pretty cool illustrations of Dirtbag and Groundchuck. I kind of like that Groundchuck one more than the Dirtbag one, but, they're both pretty cool. Here's another thing, too. Now, I mentioned this in my 1988 reissue review of Donatello, that recently they've changed the color of the Turtles logo. Like, it used to be like an ugly olive green kind of color, but we all loved it. Now they changed it to a neon green. So who knows what that's all about. On the side here, you got a shot of Dirtbag. On the other side, you can see Groundchuck. And on the back here, now, this information here, this is just like a generic explanation of the Ninja Turtles. It doesn't have anything specifically written about these two guys. Unfortunately, there's no names for accessories or anything like that, but that is a pretty cool shot of the both of those guys. And down here, that's just an awesome shot of Wingnut and Screwless. I can't wait to pull those guys out too, but I'm going to have to wait until I'm done with this guy. With this release, we're getting closer and closer to having a full cast of Planet of the Turtloids. All we need now is Bork, Dwork, and Tattoo. I'm pretty sure Herman the Horrible isn't coming out anytime soon. So let's stop wasting time. I'm going to open these guys up, get them moving around a little bit, and I'll talk to you in a second. Two things real quick. Look how much deeper this Dirtbag and Groundchuck box is compared to the Punk Frogs. And second, behind these guys, there's always a screenshot from the cartoon, or maybe sometimes they'll have a shot of the NECA toon diorama, something cool to surround these figures as they're sitting or standing inside of their package. For these guys, there's a cool shot of the Technodrome that's been used before with some bad guys, only this time, mine came upside down. So here they are, free from their box prison, ready to fight the Turtles. And, man, these guys are just huge. They both look gigantic. I was curious to see how they scaled with Bebop. Because, the Bebop and Rocksteady 2-pack was $50, and these guys are $15 more expensive. So here you can see how they compare to him. They're not as tall as him, but what they lack in height, they make up for in bulk. I think especially Groundchuck, his body just is very big and bulky. Not to mention, I don't think they have reused parts on their bodies. The legs pretty much all look brand new. They're different sculpts in this Bebop here. For the most part, it doesn't appear that there's much of reused parts between the two of them. But much like how some of Mondo Gecko was built off of like the punk frogs, you can definitely see that in the arms. Like, you could definitely see that there are similar shapes to both of their arms. It's just that, these guys are probably sculpted digitally. Maybe they're sculpted by hand. I don't really know. But you can tell that they adjusted some things. Like, this forearm is the same. It's just that they, like, extended some of the fur down here to make it look like he has some shaggy forearms. And, the hands especially. You can tell that those were the same. It's just that they added some, new bits and pieces. He kind of has a funny fist, too. Like I feel like his thumb, you hold a fist like this. Like, you don't hold it down here. He's kind of got like a Mr. Burns fist, like, ugh. So, but at least he's got a fist. That's so cool. At least there's like enough differences between these two guys that you really don't notice the similarities with the arms. Everything else just looks pretty awesome and pretty unique. And that's just awesome, because I'm glad that NECA is putting some more extra money into this line, because it's cooler when you have more different types of body types, and it just makes your whole shelf look more dynamic and more exciting. And on top of that, like, look at all the accessories included in this set. Like, some of these are huge. Like this drill. Each character has 6 hands. And, like, those Groundchuck hands are, really big. I don't know. This is a really awesome set. I think NECA has, really outdid themselves with this one. So, as usual, I'm going to I'm going to talk about all of their appearances in the Fred Wolf cartoon. I'm going to show how they compare, like the sculpts of these toys compare to how they look in those cartoons. And I'm also going to compare their sculpts to the sculpts of the original 1991 toy line. And, these guys were some of my favorite figures in that original 1991 toy line. I think the only one that really surpassed them for me was Worm. These guys, for me, are like, that's the top 3. Worm, and then Groundchuck and Dirtbag. I'm also going to talk about all the accessories included in this set and show you how they compare to what they look like in the cartoon with some screenshots. For one thing, the Foosh had this listed as like a tracking device that Donnie built or something like that. I don't know if NECA told them that or if they just kind of guessed that, because this is not a tracking device. This is something very specific. And I'm going to go over it, but not until later. So stick around. All right, so let's begin by talking about Dirtbag and Groundchuck in the cartoon. Groundchuck and Dirtbag appeared in 2 episodes of the original show. First, they appeared in the Season 5 or Season 6 hour-long special, Planet of the Turtloids. At the Technodrome, the Shredder and Krang are discussing their new evil scheme, which will finally free the Technodrome from its prison in the Arctic. Steal a giant ruby, which they can use to refocus this giant heat ray. How will they steal the ruby? Send Bebop and Rocksteady? Nah, those fools foul up every time. They need more mutants, that's it. Krang fills up this cool canister with a new batch of mutagen, and they all head for the zoo. At the zoo veterinarian clinic, Krang and Shredder set up a mutation lab, while Bebop and Rocksteady look for the most ferocious animals they can find. They return with a lion and a gorilla. The lion and the gorilla are placed under the mutagen dispenser, and Bebop and Rocksteady go to the petting zoo, because, they're like children or something. And here is where they free some of the petting zoo animals. They free them because they say it's a joyous occasion or a special occasion that they're back at the zoo where they came from before they were mutated. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Bebop and Rocksteady were humans who got mutated once they came in contact with a rhino and a warthog. What would have actually been an interesting story is if Shredder decided to mutate them into, Bebop and Rocksteady, And then he also decided to mutate the actual warthog and rhino into, different creatures. That way, maybe you could have had bumbling fools, Bebop and Rocksteady, and then maybe more like a more vicious, more animalistic rhino and warthog running around, and maybe they could fight or something. I don't know. So they free a mole and a bull, and coincidentally, Kermit the Turtleoid shows up looking for two typical Earthlings. He doesn't know what Earthlings look like, so he mistakes the lion and the gorilla for Earthlings, and he frees them. They move out of the way of the mutagen dispenser, and then, of course, the bull and the mole run right underneath the mutagen dispenser and get mutated. I kind of prefer that the bull and mole get mutated because, in all honesty, I would have preferred Groundchuck and Dirtbag over Sergeant Bananas and King Lionheart. Shredder, Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady return to the building, and they find Groundchuck and Dirtbag. Look how funny Krang looks here. Once Shredder sees his new mutants, he scolds Bebop and Rocksteady for freeing a bull and a mole, and he also gives them their new outfits and weapons. Now, here's something I wanted to bring up. All right, earlier in this episode, when they arrive at the zoo, Krang asks the Shredder, "Did you remember to bring the weapons and the outfits for the new mutants?" And he responds, "Get off my back, Krang, of course I did." They had no idea who or what they were going to mutate, but the Shredder brought a miner uniform and armor with bull heads on it, plus horn armor. Now I kind of want to see a gorilla dressed up as a miner and a lion with some bull horns. That'd be cool, right? So, that's something. But, all right, so Shredder tells these guys to go steal the giant ruby, but they rebel instead. They beat up the Technodrome crew, and they split. Almost immediately, they run into the Turtles, and they decide to fight them too. But again, before the battle, really gets to begin, it's immediately interrupted by Kerma. Kerma captures all of them and takes them to Shell-Rila. Kerma foolishly thinks that Groundchuck and Dirtbag are typical Earthlings, and he wants them to go back to Shell-Rila with him to discuss something. You see, Kerma is an alien turtleoid from the planet Shell-Rila, and his people are in trouble, so he needs to talk to some Earthlings right away. The Turtles fill him in that, "No, man, these dudes are mutants. They're totally atypical. They can't help you at all, dude." Once everybody reaches Shell-Rila, Groundchuck and Dirtbag escape while the Turtles are distracted and chatting with Kerma. They dig their way outside of the city, outside of the protective dome, and that's when they encounter Herman the Horrible. Herman is a giant two-headed dragon thing that's been attacking Shell-Rila. He wants their gold machines, so he can rule over the Turtloids. Herman proposes a team-up of the evil persuasion. Back in Shell-Rila, Kermit tells the Turtles that the only thing keeping Herman out of Shell-Rila is a giant force dome, and unfortunately, it's running out of juice. It grows weaker by the minute, and the Turtloids are running out of its power source. Trilithium crystals. Star Trek. The Turtles propose to fight Herman. 3 set off to sabotage Herman's weaponry, and Donnie stays with Kerma to build a pulverizer raid device. While all of this is going on, Groundchuck and Dirtbag return to the dome with a giant trilithium crystal. They tell the Turtloids that they'll give it to them if they let them in. Once the gullible Turtloids let them in, Groundchuck breaks the crystal and reveals that it was only rock salt. Couldn't Groundchuck and Dirtbag just dig their way back into the city if they were able to dig their way out of it? Groundchuck and Dirtbag start blasting their weapons and search for the Force Dome generator. Eventually, these two evil Earthlings find the Force Dome generator and they destroy it. This allows Herman to attack the city. The Turtles return to Shell-Rila and they attack Groundchuck and Dirtbag. Mikey has a fight with Groundchuck. He rides him around like he's a rodeo bull and hogties him. Dirtbag tries to escape in the sewers, but Raph hunts him down and finds him hiding in some pipes. Donnie defeats Herman the Horrible with his new pulverizer ray. I feel like they were all defeated way too easily. They didn't even put up much of a fight. Do the Turtles return Groundchuck and Dirtbag to Earth so they can pay for their crimes there? No, they leave them on Shell-Rila. I'm sure leaving 2 huge, muscular, aggressive mutants on a planet filled with tiny turtle pacifists is going to end well. They'll just stay locked up, right? So in the Season 7 episode, Escape from the Planet of the Turtloids, The turtles return to Shell-Ra with Kerma, only to find that Groundchuck and Dirtbag have escaped. I can't believe that. Now these two evil dudes are teamed up with an evil space android 90s cliche named Captain Dread. Again, these dudes are after the Turtloids gold machine. I love how as soon as they land on the planet, Groundchuck just walks over to Kerma and picks him up without even acknowledging the turtles standing there. Like he can't see them or something and just begins to walk away. I also love that, you can see that this cell looks like a separate layer from the rest of the, scene. And I'm being serious about that. I actually do like seeing that in cartoons, when you can kind of see that shadow underneath the cells. It's just a nice little cool thing that is lost now that most 2D cartoons are done all digitally. They've become a little sterile. So it's nice when you go back and you watch those old 2D cartoons and you just kind of see these things. I feel like they're charming. So Mikey kicks Groundchuck and a brawl takes place. The turtles win, but Kermit gets captured. Aboard their spaceship, Groundchuck and Dirtbag torture Kermit because they just don't like him. This causes Kermit to snap, and it motivates him to escape. He returns to Shell-Ra, but not long after, so does Captain Dread, Groundchuck, and Dirtbag. Only this time, they have the brute force to help them out. The brute force attack the turtles, while the deadly trio try to get the Turtloid gold machine. Dirtbag tries to dig his way in, but Mikey and Donnie follow him into the sewers, where they lock him in a pipe and blast him to the surface with some sewer water. Raph tricks Groundchuck with a red sheet or shirt into running into a wall because Groundchuck has never seen Looney Tunes. This causes Groundchuck's horns to break, and then he's roped up. And that's it. Groundchuck and Dirtbag never appear again. This episode is all right, but it's definitely underwhelming. So much of it is so similar to that first Turtloid episode. I discussed this a lot more in my Mondo Gecko and Kerma review, so check that out. Groundchuck and Dirtbag are sort of overshadowed, I think, in this episode by Captain Dread. And also in this episode, they lose some of their, personality. In Planet of the Turtloids, they're, exciting, Groundchuck is very, loud and he's talking a lot all the time. And Dirtbag likes to ask philosophical questions. They're just there's just something more quirky or something about them. They just seem very flat compared to that original episode. The proportions of these guys can be a little different depending on which episode you're watching. In Planet of the Turtloids, their bodies are kind of tall and they have small heads. These action figures don't really match this look. I think NECA was trying to go for more how they look in Escape from Planet of the Turtloids. In that episode, they appear to be shorter or maybe a little buffer or wider or something like that. And their heads have grown. So here you can see in the cartoon what they look like. And here are the toys. And this is what I'm saying. They kind of squished them down a little bit. Gave them bigger heads. So like I said, these fit in with the cartoon. It just depends on which one you're watching. Dirtbag has a cool look, even though it is a cliche. But he's a mole. What else was he going to be? He's going to be a miner or a digger or something like that. He's not going to be a sky pilot or a captain of some boat. He's going to be stuck in the ground. Even the Battle Beast mole was called Miner Mole. These poor guys, that's the only job they can do. But lucky for Dirtbag and lucky for us, he looks pretty awesome in this gear. The outfit just perfectly fits him. As soon as you look at this, you know exactly what kind of animal it is. So it may be a cliche, but it works out with his character so well. Dirtbag has this cool red miner's cap on top of his head. It's got that light bulb in the front so he can see under the ground, and some goggles on top, just in case he doesn't want to get dirt in his eyes. You can see he has all that in the cartoon. Dirtbag wears this green overall shirt. He's got those 2 pockets on his chest. He has they look like red suspenders, but I think they're supposed to be straps to the backpack, the knapsack, or the rat pack, whatever you want to call it. But that's purple. So does that make sense? I don't know. But yeah, so he's got those red straps. He's got the red belt, and he wears black pants. You could see that in the cartoon. He's got all that stuff. On one side of his pants, he's got a tear in his knee, and you can see that he wears a boots. And on the other side, he's just completely free flowing. You know, he's got no boot or nothing down there. He's just got the bottom of his leg hanging right out. Dirtbag wears red fingerless gloves. They look pretty good. You know, I mean, there's not much to say about them. They just kind of look cool. You know, this guy looks pretty awesome, but I kind of feel like he looks more like a bear than he does a mole. I don't know if you can see that or not, but he just appears so much like a bear to me. I feel like the original toy was a little closer to a mole, but even in the cartoon, you know, like this isn't on NECA. Like, this is on the cartoon itself. In the cartoon, I feel like he looks like a bear. Like, he doesn't look like a mole to me. He looks like a bear. He looks kind of like a polar bear with a green or gray fur. Dirtbag wears a cool rat pack or a knapsack. It's called Rat Pack in the original 1991 toy, but you can call it whatever you want to. It's just a cool purple book bag, clothing bag, whatever you want to call it. This is pretty awesome looking, and I really like the color. This purple, like you have the brighter purple, and then on the bottom, like the shading. Something about it just looks very neat to me. It looks very similar to the original toy color too. And I feel like everything is very practical looking. Like the sculpt of this is not clumsy at all. It all looks good. You know, it all looks sound. Like the sleeping bag, how that like swirls around in there. Like it actually looks like it's cloth folded or rolled upon itself. The pockets all look good. You know, they don't look like they're just squished or anything like that. They stick out pretty good, like he's got some cool things inside of there. Now, what's really awesome about this is you can actually open this up. This whole thing is like a soft vinyl, and you can open this up. And I've been trying to fit this blaster inside of there, but it's been a little tricky. You know, first of all, you have these like very thin parts coming off the top or in the front here, where you don't want to accidentally like do something to break them. And I can usually get it down a little far, but just not far enough so that you can actually get it past that, you know, little bit there. I've tried different directions, but there's always like one side of it that kind of gets in the way. See that? Like even like that, this little tiny piece right here is kind of sticking up. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like I can get this in all the way. Here you can see how the knapsack or the rat pack looks in the cartoon. And if you come back to this toy, you can see that they pretty much copied that design perfectly. Dirtbag has like this piece of cloth or ribbon tied around his tail. I think on the original toy, it's actually supposed to be a tourniquet because he has a bunch of like body damage and stuff like that. So I don't know what the purpose is in the cartoon other than just to, you know, have a nice little flare back there. Dirtbag has a pretty simple design in the cartoon, and I think NECA pulled it off flawlessly. Like, this looks great, you know, this looks like he leapt right off the screen. Everything is here, not that there's really much that they could have missed, but it's all here. And I think that like even the face might even look more like a mole than gave it credit for whenever I talked about it a little earlier. It definitely doesn't look as much of a bear as it does in that cartoon, so good job, NECA. If you were wondering how well they translated this original toy from 1991 to the small screen, well, here you go. First, I gotta point out this real quick. This is what I'm talking about like the face. I feel like this one from 1991 looks so much more like a mole. Like it looks very rodent-like. And this guy, he looks like a polar bear. Like that's just how he looks to me. And like I said, that's not necessarily on NECA. That's a lot to do with how he appears in the Fred Wolf series. So other than that, you know, everything is like very faithful, you know. Like he's got the green shirt. In the original toy line, he's supposed to be a militant mutant, so he wears camo. You know, that's what's going on there. He still has the miner cap with the light and the goggles on top. You have the black pants, and you have the same exact design where you have his right leg is like completely free down the bottom, and his other leg has a torn knee, and he wears a boot. You know. He doesn't have the red straps that go across his chest. You know, that's not that big of a deal. He does have the red fingerless gloves, And now we'll get into the finer details. Some of the cool things that are missing in the cartoon that this original toy had. Like the mom tattoo. You know, every bad guy has to have a mom tattoo because only bad guys would have that. He also has this really cool giant gash on his bicep that's sewn together with some stitches. I really like that. He's got like a band-aid on his finger. One of my favorite details... Don't fall on me. One of my favorite details is the forearm here. You know, it looks like he has a bite. He's got bite marks there. Like he's got teeth imprints in his forearm. To me, that's just kind of cool. So this guy, you know, even back here, he's got like this cut. He's completely covered in battle damage and some worms in his back pocket. So if you look at like the tail here, this is what I was talking about earlier too. You know, this wrap here looks like a tourniquet. It looks like there's a cut down his tail, and this thing is sort of keeping it together so he doesn't bleed out when he's in the midst of battle. On this guy, you know, he doesn't have any kind of cut or anything like that. So,
is it there just for decoration?
If you look at the wrap pack, the original one just has a ton of detail. You know, there's a lot of supplies in there, shovels and all that kind of stuff. You know, it looks cool. Obviously, they didn't want to have to draw all of that in the cartoon, so they cut a bunch of it out. I think it's fine. It looks like the sleeping bag is on the bottom here as opposed to the top. But, yeah, just, everything is really cool. And, I think it's really awesome when you get, like, such a faithful adaptation of a toy in the cartoon. So I was happy with how this guy looked. While Dirtbag's design was nice and simple, Groundchuck's is crazy by comparison. You know, there's so much going on here. So many little bits and pieces all over the place. First, if you start at the head, you know, Groundchuck's got green hair. He's got a blue nose ring. He's got one purple horn. He's got a metallic horn that kind of turns into this plate around his face with this cool crosshair eyeball. That way he can see what he's ramming right into, you know. If you look at the cartoon, you can see all that. It's all there. Groundchuck has a laser that shoots out of this horn. Like, the edge of it can pop off, and, you know, he can blast at people. Unfortunately, this toy does not have any ability to do that. It's just one sculpted piece. Groundchuck has this one metallic shoulder pad on this side, and you have all these spikes that almost kind of appear like in a random placement or something like that. But if you look at the cartoon, you know, all those spikes are indeed in those places. And later on, I'm going to show you that on the original toy line, all those spikes were pretty much in the same places. Like, it's insane that that was like one of the details they copied perfectly. On the other side, Groundchuck has this bullseye right over his chest. You have these purple straps that keep it into place. Those purple straps also connect to this shoulder pad up here. Now, this actually looks more like a cow skull on the original toy. Here, it looks like an alien with horns or something like that. It doesn't, you know, they had to simplify things in the cartoon. You can see that here. Like, lots of times this shape gets, like, wonky and disfigured, but, you know, they did a decent job of putting it on this action figure. If you look at the back here, you can see that he has all those straps going across. And, like, just the color of these, like the purple and the blue and the red, that all looks pretty nice to me. In the cartoon, you can see that he does indeed have all those straps in the exact kind of placement. The only thing that's different is that there's one strap that connects to the shoulder pad that goes like underneath his shirt. This doesn't have that. I think that's just because of, you know, like how this thing is sculpted and designed. But, you know, that's not that big of a deal, right? So he wears a blue shirt. It's all torn. He has this purple belt, you know, and it has like all these different pouches, like he's a Rob Liefeld drawing or something like that. He wears a blue loincloth, so he could fit in with your Masters of the Universe toys. You can see all that in the cartoon, even that little alien skull that's supposed to be a cow skull. That's what it looks like. The legs are very neat, you know, very stylized. I love this metallic leg. Like, if you were a kid in the 90s, you probably drew a ton of characters that had, like, metal arms and stuff like that. And they all had, like, these Colossus stripes on them so that people knew it was metal. Down here, he's got one metallic hoof. It's got the black spikes. He's got this green knee pad, and it's painted really well. On the other side, you know, he's got, like, It's more of like a regular bull leg because it's all nice and furry. I like how the fur just kind of like hangs over this strap. That's pretty awesome. He's got this little tiny set of plates above this thigh. I guess for some protection, not full leg protection, just a little bit in the front there. And then he's got this bullseye knee pad. I don't know. All that is in the cartoon, and it all looks good. You know, they did a great job of matching pretty much every single small detail this guy has. And unfortunately for the animators, he has a lot. All right. On this side, on his bicep, he has a branding of a foot symbol. He's got that in the cartoon. That's all good. If you look at his gloves here, on this one side, he has like bigger golden spikes. And if you look on the other side, he has smaller silver like rivets or something like that. You know, they're not spikes. So I don't know. This guy is just really awesome, and he's just completely covered in so much detail. You know, it's kind of funny to me that in the cartoon, you know, Shredder gives them both their outfits, and for some reason he gives Groundchuck like all this awesome like cybernetic technology and stuff like that, you know, all this very high-tech stuff, and he just gives Dirtbag a minor outfit. Like, okay. You know, one thing I really like is how they did the leg articulation here. Well, not necessarily articulation, I'll talk about that more later. But the sculpt, you know, like when you look under this metallic leg, it connects to this piece right here that connects to his body. And they, you know, sculpted this in white plastic. And it even has the stripes etched in of the metal down here. And then on this side, you have this like furry, you know, ball joint or whatever. I just like that because I feel like in the past we would have just gotten like, you know, like smoother balls. So, you know, like it would have just been like the same on both sides, and like, you know, who knows if they would have even been different colors or something like that. To me, it just seems like, you know, NECA is kind of going above here. You know, they're really trying to make things really awesome and stand out, and you know, it just makes me happy as a toy collector and somebody who likes to stare at action figures. So how well did they translate Groundchuck to the small screen? Pretty faithfully, actually, you know, pretty crazy, in my opinion. Such as, like, I was talking about this earlier, you have this metal shoulder pad, and you have these little tiny spikes, and they copied that, like, exactly in the cartoon. That's crazy. Like, if I was one of the animators, I would have been like, hey, can't we just, like, put, like, one big spike here and one big spike there? No. They had to copy it and make it as close to the toy as possible, I guess. So the original Groundchuck toy, you know, he's got the green hair, he's got the metallic face, just, you know, everything is simplified in the cartoon. You know, that's all there. And after that, I'm going to get rid of that one because the paint on that one I have is not the best. But I have this variant of Groundchuck where he has the silver hair, and his paint is fantastic. So you can see that he's got the blue nose ring. He's got the bullseye on his chest, and you have the straps going around. They took out the like the fishnet texture on the shirt. That's okay. He doesn't. His belt is completely blue though. He doesn't have that purple going across. Although this skull down here definitely looks more like a cow skull. He does have the foot branding on his bicep. On the other side though, he has like a I don't know if that's like a bullseye or something like that branded on his bicep. That is not on this original toy. Or I'm sorry, that is not on the cartoon version. His shoulder pad has like the cow skull. There's just a little bit of a different detail on top of there. But he does have like the Colossus metal leg. The hoof is metal. Here's a weird detail. If you look at the this knee pad here, for some reason, it's a knee pad, like it's a little tiny Ninja Turtle head. Why would he have a Ninja Turtle head on his knee pad? I don't know. But, you know, when they made it in the cartoon, they just gave him a green circle here, which is fine. On this side, the bullseye, he's got this little, you know, piece of metal that goes across, but not all the way around his leg. And he has this strand down here that connects to that little belt or like loop or whatever, or chain link. So, you know, they copied this guy pretty faithfully. On this side of his glove, he's got like little tiny small spikes or rivets. And then on the other side, he has the bigger ones. So, you know, they did an excellent job. One thing they took out here is the tail. He does not have a tail in the cartoon, which, you know, they probably could have left that in, but like I said, they probably did not want to draw that. I don't know. The straps are cool on the original one because they actually have like some kind of depth or something like that. Like these straps go across the top. It definitely looks like they're actually sitting on top of this strap underneath and his spine and stuff like that. That looks really cool. It's a neat effect that you don't usually get with a lot of these action figures. So they did a very good job is what I'm getting, you know, down to it. That's the whole thing here. They did a great job in the cartoon of copying this guy and keeping him, you know, as faithful as they could, despite having to draw all these annoying little details if you were an animator. This is probably one of the only clear shots that I grabbed of this malevolent pair standing next to the turtles. You know, lots of times they're in, you know, different planes or something like that where you have perspective, so you can't really tell the scale or height these guys are compared to the guys. But here you can see that they are, you know, slightly taller than them, just very bulky, you know. What they lack in height, they make up for in bulk. And these toys pretty much nailed it, you know. They're not much taller than the turtles, but they're just, you know, very big compared to them. You can see that Bebop and Rocksteady are probably around the same size as Groundchuck and Dirtbag. But in this shot, you know, Shredder should be taller. For whatever reason, they made him a little too short. If you look at these action figures, Bebop is probably a little too tall compared to them. And, you know, Shredder is just short. You have to keep in mind, in that original show, Bebop and Rocksteady are actually a little shorter than the, like, this toy line scales Bebop and Rocksteady. You know, I'm perfectly fine with them being big because they look massive next to the Ninja Turtles. But in that show, they're more like, you know, short and stumpy or something. Just kind of like Groundchuck and Dirtbag are. All right, so now we get to talk about articulation. And I'm going to try to move through this as quickly as I can because I just want to get to accessories. You know, that's like one of my favorite categories of all these reviews. So, all right, let's begin with the top. He's got like a ball-jointed neck. Mine's pretty stiff. You can only move his head up about this far, move his head down about that far, and, you know, twisting his head all the way around, he's getting some resistance there, but I'm sure you could spin it 360. I just don't want it. His mouth is articulated, which is great because you get him into nice different poses, you know, give him different expressions with how open or closed you want it. That's pretty awesome. His shoulders swivel all the way around. Plus, they have a hinge. You can go up about that high and about that low. You have a cut in the bicep, so you can turn that around. He's got double-jointed elbows. Now, I have a little bit of a hard time with my elbows with Dirtbag for some reason. It's like the one side, I can get this joint to move down here, but it's really hard for me to get this top one to move. Now, on this side, I can get the top joint to move. When, you know, a bit, but I can't get like the bottom one to move. Maybe if I try it, I don't know. It's a little difficult. There we go. I'm getting it a little bit, but it's not the easiest thing. He has a swivel in his wrist and he's got a hinge. One cool thing about these changeable hands is that the joint is actually pretty far inside of this cuff, so you don't necessarily see that gray inside of there. Once you have the hand in place, you know, it covers it up really well. You don't have any articulation in the upper torso, but you have a ball joint here in the waist. And you can, you know, hunch him over pretty far. You can have him go back a little bit. It's a little difficult to get him to rotate in a 360, like all the way around, because of the way this joint goes up inside of the upper torso. The upper torso, you know, they stop each other. You know, you're getting a lot of resistance there, and you can't really spin them around. I really like NECA's hip joints. You know, I've said that in most of my reviews. They have like ball joints in there, and then part of the hip wraps around that, and you can kind of just twist it around on that ball. Plus, that piece that wraps around the ball is connected to the top of the leg here, so you kind of have like a double swivel feature there. You know, you can get it if one of them is stuck, you can get the other one to turn around. You have double jointed knees, but these are the way because he has like such bulky legs, you can't necessarily like bend it too far back. I mean, like that's a pretty decent distance. And then the leg here, or sorry, the foot, you have a hinge and you have ankle rockers. And the tail just has a ball joint, so you can kind of twist that all over the place. Groundchuck is very similar to Dirtbag, but he has a few differences, right? You know, a lot of it is the same. Like he's got the ball jointed neck, he's got the articulated mouth. Although for some reason, you know, the paint on my tongue got stuck to the top of the teeth. So when I pulled it off of there, like there's a little bit of a hole where the paint should be on the tongue, which is a bummer. You know, he's got the same arm articulation because he pretty much has the same exact arms as Dirtbag. The leg articulation is the same, you know, double jointed knees. You have the same system in the hips. You have hinges and ankle rockers down at the hooves down there. All right, so here are the big differences. You have no tail articulation because he doesn't have a tail. And his lower torso goes really high up into his upper torso. This is so you can kind of have him hunched forward. Because if you have him like kind of standing up straight, that makes him look up like this. Like he's always looking up. And you can try to push his head down as far as you can, but he's still going to be looking up. So really what you want to do with Groundchuck is you want to hunch him forward like this. You know, kind of put him into this position where it looks like he's about ready to start running at people. And that's pretty much it. Man, Groundchuck and Dirtbag just look awesome. And I'm happy that NECA decided to release them so soon after they released Kerma. I don't know how happy he is about it though. Ouch. Now, onto accessories. First up you have Dirtbag's shovel. Very nice. You know, it's a very simple design, but it looks good. He actually uses this in Planet of the Turtloids while fighting Raphael. In the episode, it's completely gray, but the shape of everything is exactly the same. You know, the toy here, the handle looks a little more brown, and you have that like little tiny red tip there at the end. But, you know, like I said, it looks pretty much just like it does in the cartoon, other than colors. You can get Dirtbag to hold the shovel, so, you know, that's always good. Up next, you have Dirtbag's blaster, and this is just really neat looking, you know. It has a very unique design. You don't usually see this kind of blaster in this series or really many other series. Like, it just has a very cool look to it. It's nothing specifically mole or minor or anything like that. It's just really neat, you know, it's really cool looking alien technology. I think that Herman built this. So this blaster is silver, and if you look at his blaster in Escape from Planet of the Turtloids, you'll see that that one is silver too, and pretty much all the details are exactly the same as this toy. In Planet of the Turtloids, you know, it's very similar, but the fine details are a little different. You have that one lever there on the side, and, you know, plus it's purple instead of silver. You know, not like this one right here. Groundchuck does a perfect job of holding this blaster, so that is great. You know, maybe, like, the way his arm has to be angled a little bit is a little strange, because he's not, like, you know, shooting forward. It's like he has to angle it upwards for it to shoot straight. But other than that, it works well. Up next, you have Dirtbag's drill, and what can I say about this? You know, this thing is just awesome. First of all, it's just this giant, huge chunk of plastic, but I love how, like, everything is designed. Like, this is one of the coolest accessories, you know, I've seen in a while. I really like this. There's just something about it that calls to me. You know, I think maybe because it kind of reminds me of something else. I know it looks nothing like this, but for some reason when I look at this, it just reminds me of Quint from Mega Man 2. Like, just something about that, like, jackhammer thing he rides just reminds me of this drill. So, Dirtbag uses this in the episode Escape from Planet of the Turtloids when he's trying to dig under the Force Dome that's protecting the Turtloid gold machine. One thing I was really curious about was, how well can this guy hold this drill with both hands? And as you can see, he actually holds this really well. He seems to have a pretty good reach with both of them so that he's able to hold this in front of him. Yeah, it might be a little difficult. I think maybe if I messed around with it more, I could actually get the drill to be touching the table. But as of right now, I got a little bit of a gap. But it's just cool that he can hold this thing with both hands. Sometimes you get like two-handed weapons and, they cannot hold them with two hands. Or you can have him, pretend like he's going after the turtles or something. Real quick, in the original toy line, Dirtbag did not have a drill. He had the jackhammer gun. And this is pretty cool looking too. It doesn't look like they were inspired at all from this thing to make this. But both are pretty neat pieces of equipment. Last up for Dirtbag is this circle of dug up dirt. And this is just a very simple but super awesome accessory. If you had the original Dirtbag as a kid, you probably took him out in your backyard and you probably dug a hole and you had him go in and out of it, attacking the turtles and stuff. You had some fun, but now you're old and fun time is over. You're not going to bury this new NECA action figure because it might ruin the mint condition. And NECA knew this, so they gave you this. Now you can bury Dirtbag for pretend and still have some of that fun that you used to have 30 years ago. All right, so the way this works is you got to pull Dirtbag apart, right? You got to pull his upper torso apart from his lower torso so you can stick him in that circle of dirt. And I feel like this is a little difficult. You can kind of see inside of here. I don't know if you can see that or not. But there's a ball that goes into the upper torso. And it is just kind of difficult, like, getting a good grip on him without, like... I feel like I'm, like, squeezing the legs and the tail way too much. I, try to twist him a little bit to try to pop it off. And you kind of... a little bit. But, I don't know. It's just, I wish this was a little easier. Oh, there we go. I got it. Now Dirtbag looks like he came in contact with King Arthur or something. All right, so there's a little notch in the back of this dirt, this little square area here. That's so that you can fit the knapsack or the rat pack in there. Like so. And, his body just fits very snug inside of this. It looks really good. It doesn't leave any kind of room for you to look in there and kind of lose the illusion that he doesn't have a lower body. This is just awesome. Like, I love this. This is quite possibly one of the coolest things in this whole toy line, just because it gives you so many different options of how you want to display this guy. It's like interactive and all that kind of stuff. Like, I really like this. In the cartoon, Dirtbag is always like digging through the ground. He easily just jumps up and can just dig right in there without any problem. But I think that NECA was mostly inspired by this scene in Escape from Planet of the Turtloids, where Dirtbag comes up from the ground and then he grabs Raph and Michelangelo and takes them underneath. Now that we're done with that varmint Dirtbag, now we can talk about Groundchuck's one and only weapon. This very cool laser pistol, or I don't even know what this is exactly. I know it shoots a laser, but yeah. This thing is really cool looking. It's very specific to Groundchuck. I mean, it's got the bull head in the front. It has the saddle going through the top. And then on the back here, you have the rattlesnake tail. So that is just really awesome. And you would think that something so cartoony and expressive would have been based off of something in the original toy line. Like, you would think that there'd be a little gun or something like that. But no, there is nothing. Like, most of Groundchuck's weapons are... like, there's one that's like a cattle prod or something like that. But there's nothing that's like this. Nothing this specifically cow or Western. So this thing is pretty cool looking. It does have this little rope down at the bottom. It would have been awesome if they would have had like some kind of hook on a Groundchuck so that you could kind of, tie that to his side so that he could run around on your shelf without having to hold this thing in his hand. But unfortunately, it does not. Here you can see it in the cartoon. He uses this in both Planet of the Turtloids and Escape from the Planet of the Turtloids. And it doesn't really change stylistically or anything like that. It pretty much stays exactly the same from episode to episode. Groundchuck can hold this gun extremely well. That actually looks really good, you know. It actually looks like he's got like a nice straight grip on it. And plus you can also kind of fit it there so it looks like he's got a trigger finger. So yeah, this you know, like I said, he's got one accessory, but it's a really well done accessory. This is pretty awesome. Woo doggy! Only one more accessory left. And this accessory does not have anything to do with Dirtbag or Groundchuck or the Turtloids or anything like that. This is from something completely different. And this is not a tracking device. This is something pretty specific. This is the pocket-sized portable portal. In the Season 4 episode, Planet of the Turtles, no relation to Planet of the Turtloids. That's just lazy. The guys encounter some turtle people from the turtle dimension, and at one point, Donnie is stuck on the Technodrome with this TV salesman named Rupert. As they're about to be attacked by foot soldiers, Rupert pulls this out and says Donnie can use it to escape. Just $14.95, but no batteries included. Donnie tells him to knock it off, and Rupert uses it to transport them to the planet of the turtles. You know, there are like a lot of accessories in this show, or items, where you have like the wings on the front here, but you can definitely tell that this is the pocket-sized portable portal because of the just the placement of the buttons, you know, how everything looks. You can see like all the buttons and stuff like that here. You know, this is pretty cool. And then if you look at it in this shot in the cartoon, you can see like a lot of the details that you can't really see in most of the shots. Some of these details are not included on this toy, but, you know, it doesn't really bother me because most of the times when you see it, it's pretty small. And then after this, I think it disappears. I don't remember if it comes back by the end of the episode or not. Now, I don't know if the hands are different at all for the Sky set turtles. I haven't gotten mine in the mail yet from NECA, but the way it is now, I have the SDCC Ninja Turtles, and his hand is like really, really stiff, and I just can't put this thing in there. Like it's too wide, and I just can't fit it into his hand. So unfortunately, my Ninja Turtle cannot use this to transport himself to the turtle dimension. Both of these guys come with 3 sets of hands, so 6 hands altogether. And these hands are great, you know. I can't think of, you know, for these 2 guys, you really don't need any more hands than this, right? All you need is a set of fists, which they have. They both have their own set of fists. They both have a set of gripping hands. The gripping hands can hold every single item or weapon in this set, so that's great. And they also have these more like open palm hands, or expressive hands, like I like to call them, because you can kind of use them in your poses to get different expressions, or, you know, just different nice little like touches, you know, like you can really make them look lively when you kind of mix and match the different hands. Here's Dirtbag and Groundchuck next to I'm pretty sure all of the different NECA body types in this series. You know, these guys aren't the tallest, but they may be the most intimidating, you know. Them and Leatherhead, they all look pretty awesome together. I also kind of think, like, as this series, you know, continues to progress, much like the original Ninja Turtle toy line, the quality seems to get better. Like, I feel like the quality of the sculpt on Dirtbag and Groundchuck is just, like, a little better or something like that than, like, Leatherhead or maybe even the Triceratons, you know? Things are just getting better and better. Here they are next to one of NECA's Mirage Ninja Turtles. Man, they really need to bring that series back full time. Here you can see Dirtbag and Groundchuck next to some of the Super 7 Ultimates. Now, you know, Groundchuck and Dirtbag can push around Bebop and Rocksteady in the Fred Wolf cartoon, but I don't think they're going to be able to push around these guys. Here's Dirtbag and Groundchuck next to some of the Playmates Turtles Classics. What do you call this line? Obviously, these guys aren't as good as NECA's offering here, and you can tell that Mikey's really pissed off that I've been bad-mouthing him for the past couple weeks. And that's it. You know, this was such an awesome set to take a look at. I was really happy with this one. I really feel like NECA outdid themselves with this. They introduced a new body type, and just like the sculpts and the paints and all that kind of stuff was just great. You know, some of the joints were a little stiff, but altogether, you know, these guys are awesome. I think that their mouths work a lot better than all the other NECA, you know, mouths have moved. You know, like Leatherhead, I still can't get him to open up his mouth the right way. I think this 2-pack was definitely worth like the extra $14. But boy, if you've been buying all these sets like I have, you know, you're probably running out of your shelf space too. You know, my shelf is overpopulated, but it looks amazing when I actually have these guys on the shelf. Most of the times they sit on the floor next to me at my review table. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and talk to you later.